You're exhausted. Your body's begging for sleep. But the moment the lights go off, your mind turns on. Not gently, not slowly, violently. Old conversations, regrets you thought were buried, moments you replay like evidence, people you never got closure from. And suddenly, it's 2:17 a.m. You're not scrolling because you're bored. You're scrolling because silence feels dangerous. Because when everything goes quiet, your mind stops running from you. And that's what you're really afraid of. Let me say this clearly, because most people never hear it this way. You don't stay awake at night because you can sleep. You stay awake because night is the only time your life feels like it belongs to you. During the day, you perform. You answer messages, meet expectations, play roles, do what's required to survive. But none of that feels like you. So when the world finally shuts up, when no one needs anything from you, your brain refuses to power down. Because this is the only time you're not owned by something. That's why this isn't insomnia. It's revenge bedtime procrastination. Revenge against days that drain you quietly. Revenge against a life that doesn't feel chosen. Revenge against a version of yourself that never gets to speak. Sleep feels like surrender. Staying awake feels like control. And control is the one thing you feel like you're losing everywhere else. Here's the part people miss. You don't reach for your phone because you enjoy it. You reach for it because it protects you. Scrolling is not entertainment. It's anesthesia. Every swipe delays the moment you have to sit with yourself. Every video fills the silence just enough to keep the thoughts from landing. Because the second the screen goes dark, your chest tightens, your thoughts sharpen, and your mind goes straight to the places you avoid during the day. That's not coincidence, that's design. Because your brain isn't malfunctioning at night, it's auditing your life. When distractions die, the mind finally has room to review what you've been postponing. Unspoken resentment, unfinished grief, decisions you keep delaying. That quiet feeling that something about your life doesn't fit anymore. The brain schedules unresolved emotion for the quiet hours. Daytime is for output, night is for processing. And if nothing gets processed during the day, the audit begins at night. That's why your thoughts don't wander randomly. They go straight to the wounds, the relationship that never healed, the version of yourself you almost became, the moment you wish you handled differently, the feeling that you're behind, even if you can't explain why. This isn't chaos, it's confrontation. Your mind isn't attacking you, it's asking for acknowledgement. But instead of listening, you numb. And then you wake up tired, irritable, already resentful of the morning, which makes the next night even heavier. That's the loop. Here's something uncomfortable but important. You're not afraid of being tired. You're afraid of being alone with yourself. Because silence removes performance, no role, no validation, no identity borrowed from productivity or attention. Just you. And that forces a question most people avoid. Who am I when nothing needs me? That question terrifies people more than exhaustion ever could, because when the distractions disappear, you're left with identity friction. The version of you that survives the day and the version of you that exists at night are not the same person. One is functional, one is honest. And when those two collide, it feels like anxiety. But it's not anxiety. It's grief. Grief for the unlived life. The person you thought you'd be by now. The path you didn't take. The parts of yourself that never got room to grow. That grief has nowhere to go during the day, so it waits until the world goes quiet enough to hear it. That's why staying awake feels like rebellion. Because sleep would mean waking up tomorrow to the same unanswered questions. And some part of you isn't ready to face that yet. So you steal time from the night, not joyfully, not peacefully, desperately. Because staying awake feels better than surrendering to a life that still feels unfinished. And here's the truth. That changes everything. Your night thoughts are not the enemy. They are messages you postponed too long, but there's a reason. They feel unbearable, and it has nothing to do with overthinking. It has to do with something deeper, something most people never admit to themselves. That's where this really starts. The reason your night thoughts feel unbearable is not because they're loud. It's because they're honest. During the day, you survive by fragmentation. Different version of you at work, different version with family, different version online, different version alone. Each one handles a piece of life. None of them hold the whole truth. Night is when those fragments collide, and collision hurts. Your mind isn't trying to torture you. It's trying to integrate you. That's why it doesn't bring up random memories. It brings up the ones with weight, the conversations you never finished, the boundaries you never set, the moments you betrayed yourself to keep the peace, the dreams you buried because they felt unrealistic. Your brain is asking one thing: are we really okay with this? And if the answer isn't clear, it doesn't let you rest. Here's the part most people misunderstand. Peace does not come from silence. Peace comes from resolution. And resolution doesn't mean fixing your entire life. It means acknowledging what you've been pretending not to see. That's why the phone feels safer than sleep, because sleep removes distraction. And distraction is the last defense between you and yourself. Scrolling keeps you half awake, half honest, half alive. It lets you avoid choosing, but avoidance has a cost. Every night you anesthetize yourself, your mind schedules the audit again for tomorrow. Stronger, sharper, less patient. That's why this doesn't go away on its own. And no, the answer is not discipline. It's not hacks. It's not forcing your thoughts to stop. Because forcing silence doesn't resolve anything. It just delays the conversation. Let me ground this. You are not broken for struggling at night. You are not weak for avoiding silence. You are not failing because you can't turn your brain off. You are someone whose inner world has been neglected. Someone who learned to function before they learned to feel safe. Someone who kept moving because stopping felt dangerous. Someone who postponed honesty to survive. Night is where postponed honesty collects interest. That's why your thoughts feel heavier there. But here's the shift, and this matters. When you stop asking, how do I shut my mind up, and start asking, what is my mind trying to finish? Everything changes, because now night isn't a battlefield, it's feedback. And feedback loses its power to haunt you once you stop running from it. This doesn't mean you sit in darkness and drown in thoughts. It means you stop treating them like intruders. You don't need to solve them at 2 a.m. You just need to stop pretending they're meaningless. Because the mind doesn't demand answers immediately. It demands recognition. And when something finally feels seen, it stops screaming for attention. Here's a truth that may calm you more than anything else. Most people who overthink at night are not lazy. They are not undisciplined. They are emotionally intelligent people living emotionally restricted lives. They notice what others ignore. They feel what others suppress. They carry awareness in environments that reward numbness. Daytime doesn't have room for that awareness. Night does, so it floods out. But awareness without space becomes distress. And that's what you're feeling, not anxiety, not insomnia. Identity friction. Parts of you want different lives, different rhythms, different values, and you've been asking them to stay quiet for too long. That's why your mind won't let you sleep. Not because it hates you, but because it's trying to protect you from living a life you'll regret fully acknowledging later. This is where responsibility comes in. Gently, not harshly. You can't keep asking night to carry what daytime refuses to face. You can't expect silence to absorb years of avoidance. Eventually, exhaustion shows up, resentment shows up, dread shows up. Not to punish you, to get your attention. And once you understand that, something subtle shifts. The thoughts don't disappear overnight, but they lose their edge. They feel less like attacks and more like signals. Signals that something in your waking life needs space, needs honesty, needs adjustment. That's the work. Not optimization, not perfection, alignment. And I'll leave you with this, not as advice, not as a fix, but as a reframe you can carry with you. You don't stay awake because you're restless. You stay awake because part of you is still waiting to be acknowledged. Not fixed, not optimized, acknowledged. When that part finally feels seen in the daylight, it won't need to ambush you in the dark. Because sleep isn't rest from the world. Sleep is trust in yourself. And when trust returns, night finally lets go. Let's